Kinds of translation. Translation is the process of replacing an original text, as we said before, known as the source text, with a substitute one known as target text. So we have ST and TT. ST, it is the source text, the original text, and TT is the target text, or they say the translation. Kinds of translation. Translation is the process of replacing an original text known as source text with a substitute one known as a target text. The process is usually an interlingual translation. Here we have three types of translation, or three kinds of translation. One is called interlingual translation, the other one is called intralingual translation, and the last one is intersemitic translation. Inter and intra, please concentrate and try to differentiate between these two types because they are similar. Inter, it means between two languages, any two languages. But intra, it means within the same language. And we usually refer to translation as interlingual. Because if someone asks what does mean translation, it means to render a message from one language into another. We always think of translation as transferring message from one language into another language, okay? But we as a specialized, or you as a specialized students, you need to know that there are types of translation: interlingual translation, intralingual translation, and intersemitic translation. Interlingual, it is between two languages, in that the message in the source language text is rendered as a target text in a different language. So interlingual, it's between two languages. So if someone says, what is translation? We always answer the question as saying that translation is to render a message from one language into another language. We always think of translation, it is between two languages, okay? Don't say anything else. It is between two languages. No, but there are other types of translation, which is the intralingual translation. Okay, so they said, and in this sense that we have referred to translation so far. So it means that when someone says translation, wow, we think of two languages. But sometimes the term is also used to refer to an intralingual translation. There is another type. It's a process whereby a text in one variety of the language is reworded into another. Like, for example, changing from Old English into Modern English, to change from a variety into another variety, from slang into standard, from a dialect into another dialect, and so on. So again, the two types: inter, between two languages; intra, within the same language. Mhm. The third type, it is antisemitic. Okay. We can also speak of translation when the replacement involves not another language. Okay. So when you replace a text by something but not a language, in this case it is antisemitic. Oh, so what is that thing? What is something? Like what? Like, for example, pictures. Okay. Like a picture, like a dance. Like, for example, if you see a cigarette and there is a big cross on that, so you understand a message which is no smoking. What is this? It's a kind of translation. It's called anti-Semitic translation. Why? Because they replace a linguistic message, which is no smoking, by a non-linguistic message, which is the picture here. Okay. And I always say that sometimes when someone dances, uh, sometimes some dances render messages. Okay, as we saw in our Got Talent. And okay, what all these processes have in common is that they involve the replacement of one expression of a message or unit of meaningful content by another in a different form. Okay, what do they have in common? بماذا تشترك هذه الأنواع الثلاث؟ It is a replacement of a message by another message. Okay, it is a replacement. The term translation is also sometimes used to describe linguistic activities such as, okay, they refer to summarizing as translation and paraphrasing. So sometimes they say summarizing it's translation and paraphrasing, okay. What do they have in common, and what is the difference between summarizing, paraphrasing, and translation? Although such activities resemble translation in that they replace, okay, what do they have in common? This is the thing that they have in common. They replace a message that already exists by another message. It is translation. And summarizing, you take away a message and you put another shorter message. Paraphrasing, you take away a message and you put another message by using your own expressions and words. Okay, what is the difference between translation and summarizing, paraphrasing? They differ in that they are designed not to reproduce the original as a whole. Okay, they are, I mean, when you summarize, you omit some messages. So it's not the same like translation, because in translation we try not to leave something without being translated. So we try to be honest to the original in translation. But in summarizing, it's okay to omit messages. Okay, okay, already they define that they are designed not to reproduce the original as a whole, but to reduce it to its essential parts. Okay, so that is summarizing. Or adapt it for different groups of people. So that's paraphrasing. Okay, with different needs and expectations. Mhm. When this book, we will concerned with translation as it is most commonly understood. It means that is to say, as a process of interlink. Okay, we will talk about translation, which is interlingual replacement of one text by another. We will not go in details about interlingual and intersimilar. No, we will talk about translation, but the translation which is between two languages. Translation defined. Translation is a process of replacing a text in one language by a text in another. We now need to look more closely at just what this involves. To begin with, any reference to text makes it clear that we are concerned with particular communicative uses of language.